All right. Well, for those of you who have just joined us again, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Zach. I'm the outreach coordinator for B.E.S.T. And today we have the honor of being joined by Laura Zorc, Director of Education Reform at FreedomWorks, former school board member, veteran of many, many campaigns, and of course, a mother of four and a grandmother of four more, an important parent in the movement. And so I turn it over to you, Laura, for a great presentation today on marketing yourself as a candidate.
Thank you, Zach, and thank you everyone for joining us. Zach and I had the privilege to be out in North Dakota on Friday, and we both kind of came back a little. I don't know if it's just being worn out from traveling so much and just putting in the extra hours. But Zach, I hope you get feeling better. Haven't talked to you since we've been out there, but we have a lot of elections happening this summer throughout the country. For example, out in North Dakota, their elections on June 14th. And I'd love to hear if you're a candidate and you have filed, I'd love to see in the chat when your election is. I know we have a great group that's running in Georgia. I believe your election is on May 24th. Florida, I believe, is August 24th. And then the runoffs are obviously in the general in Florida if you don't get 50+1. So I'd love to hear when everyone's election is, because it helps guide some of these presentations that we give. I'm going to tell you, because of the tight deadline that the folks out in North Dakota was up against, I put together a presentation, and it's something that I'm going to add as a bonus training as we get through these 6-week trainings. It is how to market yourself as a candidate with a 21-day strategy, because each and every one of you, there's certain things that you have to have in order to get yourself going as a candidate. And we'll talk about those today, but those last 21 days are probably going to be the most important 3 weeks of your campaign. And I want you to be able to launch that 21-day plan. So I'm looking at, after we wrap up these 6 weeks, this is the second week. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be around mid-June, and that's perfect timing for a lot of the elections going on to have that presentation for you. So let's go ahead and get started here. As Zach said, I was a former school board member. I served 2016 to 2020, and my husband served 2 terms from 2012 to 2020. And I've campaign managed a lot of local campaigns. So the presentation that you're going to see today is really just that hands-on experience that I've had as being a volunteer campaign manager, a candidate, running my husband's. He had, I believe, total, because he had challengers. I think we had about 4 of his campaigns that we had to get through. But what you're going to see here, it's really grassroots campaigning. It's campaigning on a budget. We know school board elections are they traditionally have been the campaigns that have been overlooked the most. So trying to get donations in is very difficult when it comes to our school board races. But that's why I think this presentation is important for you, because every dollar that you get in, you got to make sure that you can stretch it, double it, multiply it. And so I'm going to give you some of those tips and strategies. So let's get started. Obviously, anytime in campaigning, your first impression, you might only have one time that you're going to meet that individual. So the first impression that you make is going to mean either they're going to vote for you, not vote for you, volunteer for you, donate to you, sign your petitions, and so forth. So it is crucial that you always are ready to make a first good first impression. And what does that mean? That means the moment that you file and you are at the ball game, you're at church, you're in the grocery store, and someone says, I heard that you're running for school board. Why are you running? Well, at that moment, you should have a very well thought out, put together 60-second, 2-minute explainer. And we call those that's your stump speech right there. And that's your opportunity to sell yourself as a candidate at that moment. Like I said, that might be that turning point that someone says, yes, whatever you need. You know, a lot of times people don't have time, but they'll give you money. And if they don't have money, they'll give you their time. In that stump speech, we're going to talk about it. And this is your second week on here. Oh, I talk about this. I stress it. This is my 7th time giving this presentation. And at the end, at our 6-week final training, we're going to practice your stump speech. But what I find, believe it or not, when we get to that 6 weeks, barely anyone takes me up on this. Trust me, your stump speech, your 62-minute, your 3-minute is the most powerful marketing that you can have. And I'm going to highly suggest that of any of the marketing that we talk about today, that is the one that you need to master. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about your forums, because forums are coming up for you if they've not already started happening. If you're starting to design your stuff, we're going to talk about your logos and why that's important, keeping your message consistent, creating an impressive, inexpensive, effective website, social media advantages and disadvantages, and using your press releases. So creating your campaign speech. And typically the last 6 times that we gave these 6-week trainings, we talked about getting yourself ready before you even file. But a lot of you have already filed. So I've kind of taken that out because there's other things that we need to focus on. But by now, and if you haven't, you need to. By now, you've determined your top 3 issues. What are those issues that have driven you, that you're passionate about, and you are determined as a new school board member, these are the issues that you're going to work on and you're going to make change. So if you haven't determined those top 3 issues, you need to get started today. And then the day you file, if you've determined I have top 3 issues, let's say the parental rights, transparency, curriculum. Well, guess what? If you have said, these are my top 3 issues, then what you're saying is, I'm pretty well an expert on these, and you need to trust me. And if that's the case, you need to have researched these backwards and forwards and backwards, that you have an answer for these issues once someone approaches you on asking you questions and so forth. Because if you can't be the expert on the top 3 issues you've identified, then you're going to have a hard time convincing voters that you're the right candidate. In addition, you're going to have to be flexible, because what you'll find is, as you're out there campaigning, you've identified what you think the top 3 issues are. That is your door knocking, you're getting your petition signed. You're going to recognize that there's common themes that keep coming up. And you're going to have to be flexible enough that you're going to have to incorporate at least 1 or 2 more issues into your campaign platform. For example, let's say you started off with parental rights, transparency, and curriculum, but gender identity or the issue with the bathrooms is something that you keep getting asked. That's something that, for example, that's something that you're going to have to research. You're going to have to study. You're going to have a well thought through, formulated answer on. I know when I was running, one thing that kept coming up that wasn't on my radar was the funding of our football stadium. That wasn't really something I was following, but when I was out talking to the band boosters and the parents of South County, that was a big issue for them. So I needed to have an answer. I needed to do the research on that. So here's the thing, and we've worked with a lot of candidates, and it's been an Achilles heel for a lot of candidates, is that there's national issues that we know are going on. We know critical race theory. We know gender identity. The list could go on the national issues. But you have to connect with that voter. And what is important to your local community is what's going to get you elected. If you have to spend the whole time at a door or at a talking to a constituent, explaining what an issue is, you're really wasting your time. You got to learn what is important to those voters in your community and what aligns with your foundations, and how can you bring them over to the fact that you are the answer and the solution to what some of these problems are. So don't get so bogged down with the national issues if that's not what your community is concerned about. You've got to really understand what's important to the voters. Where I live in Florida, I live on the where we have half the season snowbirds. Snowbirds say, well, I don't have kids in school, and they're not really connected. But when you start talking about their taxes, and that our local taxes are 50% of going to the school district, and these are the kids that are going to be coming up and taking care of you one day, and the doctors and the nurses and so forth, then they'll start paying attention. So you got to know your audience, and you have to know what's important to the voters. So as you know, if you are a new candidate, you know one of the most common questions that you get: why are you running? And then the second one is, how are you making a difference? And probably the third one I got, and I didn't ever have an answer for it, is why in the world are you going to put yourself through this, right? Well, you need to have some answers. As soon as someone asks you that, that's the time for you to just eloquently say your 60, your 2 minute, however long you've practiced, to make sure that that's your first impression that you get with them, and you need to make sure that it's the right impression. So let's talk about that stump speech. So this is basically the structure of it. When you're starting to put these together, we're going to talk about this. You need to have your 60-second introduction. This is your basic introduction. It's who you are, what seat you're running for, what are the 3 issues and bullet points, what's the solution in bullet points, reminding them to vote for you on whatever date your election is. And if you're at a forum, you always want to say thank you for being here and so forth. But that's your 60-second, and you need to master that. That is something that you're going to have to practice. And I know the team, they'll always hear me say that when I was practicing, I would practice with my kids. And the reason I practiced with my kids, they were brutally honest with me. They would be so blunt. Mom, you need to do this. Mom, why are you doing that? You're not doing this right. So I practice with my kids. But when you start getting into your 2 minute stump speech, that is when your introduction. Hi, my name is Laura Zorc. I'm running for school board. I haven't done this for a while. Running for Indian River County School Board District 3. I'm the mom of 4, and but as a mom, I don't like the transparency that we have or the curriculum. So that's an example when I talk about I'm the mom of 4, or I'm a graduate of the local high school, or I was born and raised here. That's your personal story. That's your connection. So you want your introduction, who you are, what seat you're running for, your personal story. You got to incorporate that into your 2-minute. You go into your problems, transparency, low graduation rates, low academics. Those are examples of your problem. They're your platform issues. They're your issues that you're running on. But one thing as candidates, and I don't want you to get bogged down, that should be point, point, point. And then your solution. Your solution, you should be spending 2 times the amount of time on your solution and your vision. Everybody can identify the problems, right? But what you need to do is you need to be the person that has the solutions. So your problems, you're negative, but you're bringing the positive, you're bringing the solution and the vision. So especially when you get into your 3-minute. In your 3-minute, you want to be spending more time talking a little bit about the problem and most of the time about your solutions. And I'm going to tell you, this takes practice, because when you're talking to people and you're in a whole crowd of in a room and you have the mic and you're hearing the echo or somebody's cell phone and you're distracted, you have to practice this. I mean, it really is a skill that you develop the more that you do it, but you need to really focus on and practice. What solutions do you have? What vision do you have? And you have to make sure that it's all crafted into that 2-minute to 3-minute openers that you're going to have. And then ask. You have to ask for the vote. And on August 24th, please vote for me, Laura Zorc. And then never lose out an opportunity when you're speaking to a crowd like that. In the beginning, you're going to introduce yourself. You're going to say your name. Hi, I'm Laura Zorc. I'm running for District 3. And then at the end, I'm going to remind them, hi, I'm Laura Zorc. Because here's the thing, you're going to have a lot of candidates. You're going to have about 4 or 5. The school district the area we were just coming back from, North Dakota, there's 5 open seats, 23 candidates. Now, do you think people are going to remember those names? Absolutely not. And that's why it's so important that every time that you get that opportunity, you need to say your name so that they remember and they see your face. They hear your name, they've heard it twice, but the whole team, and Zach could talk about this whenever we talk about grassroots, the power of grassroots, and when you're going door to door, you have to ask for that vote. I mean, you can talk about the problems, you can talk about yourself, but why are you there? You're there because you want them to vote for you. So you have to be bold enough and brave enough to ask for that vote. And if you're too intimidated to ask for that vote, more than likely, they're not going to vote for you, because we are looking for leaders, right? We're tired of these people that say they're going to do these things, get on these school boards, and just let the superintendent and administrators run over. You have to show that you are that leader and you're bold enough to ask for that vote. In addition, you're going to use that opportunity to direct them to your website. If you have a website, Facebook page, email, however it is, somebody needs to have the ability to contact you. So your speech is a really quick way for you as the candidate to answer the following questions that the voter is thinking, and you're going to answer it for them. And the reason you're going to answer it for them is because the other candidates really, they're not going through this training. Let's hope not anyways, right? And you're going to answer every question that your constituents have without them even asking you. They want to know, who are you? You know, your name, why are you running? What makes you qualified? And when we say what makes you qualified, it doesn't matter if you have 4 degrees behind your name or if you're a mom of 4. I'm going to tell you, when I ran, I didn't have, a doctorate like the individuals that I was going up against, but I'm a mom, and that qualified me, and I do my homework and I do my research, and I was dedicated. So, but what makes you qualified? And you really need to figure that out, because that is your strength. That's what you're going to be, that is what you're going to be marketing yourself as. Why are you running for office? You're going to get that. Why? One thing, if I could teach you anything about this question, if you are a candidate that says, I've had individuals come to me and they ask me to run, you know what? I'm not going to vote for you. And I'm going to tell you why. Because most of the time, those candidates and those school board members are lazy, because they were recruited. They didn't have the passion. They didn't have what it's really going to take to invest the homework. And that's my first impression. If you say that, if you say I was asked to run, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to get my vote. And there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way as me. But so even if that's the case, and it's okay if it is, just don't say that. You got to come out of, why are you running? And because I've recognized, I've identified that our district's in trouble. Our parents need a voice. I mean, so be careful if you are a recruited candidate not to say that, because that typically is a huge no-no whenever we're looking to understand who the candidates are. And here's the thing, and I know it sounds negative, but it's true, and we have to recognize this. People are looking for any reason not to like you, right? Not to like us who are the candidate. They're trying to figure out pros and cons. So that might have just been the con to swing the voter to vote for your opponent. So just be careful when you're answering that question. Why are you running for office? And another thing is, what are your platform issues? And that really goes into, why are you running? So when someone says, why am I running? You're going to go right into your 3 platform issues. What are they? You've identified there's problems with 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go right into the solution. And then, why should they vote for you? And this kind of goes back to, why are you running? Why should they vote for you? Well, because as a mom, I've recognized and how the district administrators are treating parents, and quality of education is going down. We have too many social, politically correct issues being taught. Academics are going down. With my passion and the time that I'm going to spend holding the superintendent accountable, and you're going to go through why they should vote for you. But just like me trying to come up with the reasons off the top of my head, and you need to really have some very direct answers and a reply to that. So I'm going to tell you, this is the most important part of you marketing yourself as a candidate. And I'm going to stress, this takes time, it takes practice, it takes a lot of thought. So please make sure that you've worked on these and you're ready to go, because the next thing is you have your forums. And the more that you practice and the more you're prepared, the more you're just going to knock these forums out of the park. So with your forums, I'm going to tell you, forums made me nervous. Forums were the reason that I really thought about not running, because I am not, believe it or not, I am not someone that likes to publicly speak. And I'm going to tell you, the forums scared the heck out of me, and it almost caused me not to run. But don't let that hold you back, because I'm a witness here in my own self. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become. And even if you get up there and you're afraid, it's worth it, right? We're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for our future and our kids' future. So just be prepared at your forums. If you have your 60-second, your 2-minute, and your 3-minute, you're going to be so far ahead of your opponent. Because what's going to happen when you get invited to a forum, they're going to, probably about a week before, they'll tell you you're going to have a 2-minute opener and a 60-second closer. But what typically happens is you get there to the forum and they say, oh, we're running late, or somebody didn't show up. So they're either going to add time or they're going to take time away. That's why I say you have to practice, and you do not take a script and get up there and think that you're going to read a script, because that is not what you're going to do as a candidate. What you're going to do is you're going to practice it, because it's so important that when you have the opportunity to connect with actual constituents, you're going to be making eye contact. You're going to be reading the room. And the only way you can do that is if you have your talking points. You can have talking points, but do not write out a script. Please don't, because then it doesn't seem sincere. And I'm going to say 90% of the people that's going to vote for you, they're going to vote for you because they like you. And if they can connect with you, then you've got their vote. And that's why you need to be authentic. And the way that you're authentic is you're not talking from that script. And I'm going to tell you, I was guilty of it. And that's why I'm trying to give you what I wish I had known when I started. I wish someone had told me all this, because I would have did things differently. But be authentic, be rememberable for good reasons, right? And then one thing I always encourage the candidates is during these forums, especially whenever it's at a luncheon or a dinner and you're at the front of the room, always stand up when you speak. Take the lead, stand up, because people are in the back of the room. They can't see you. And what are we doing? We're there. We're talking about marketing yourself as a candidate. So if you stand up, they see your face, right? A visual, they see your face, you say your name, and then more than likely they're going to remember you more than they're going to remember your opponents. With your closers, always make sure in your closer, when we talk about that, you need to be asking for their vote. Take that opportunity to ask for their vote. And you always want to take the opportunity. How can they find you? How can they connect with you? Hopefully you'll have your flip card that you can leave on the table, or you have your business cards that you can leave on the table, but you're going to invite them to visit your website. You're going to invite them to call you or reach out to you. So that's important, that when you're in a forum, your opener and your closer are important, but it's also important for you to take the lead. And another thing, that when you're in a forum, if they give you 2 minutes to answer a question, use that 2 minutes, and do not Do not run over. Don't be the one that they have to pull the mic from, because I'm going to tell you that's irritating for us to watch in the audience. And then again, when we talk about they're making those pro list and those con lists, don't let that be one of going out on the con list because you were disrespectful and you kept going over. Another thing about your forums is that we get nervous, right? And that's to be expected. But if you get to a point that you're starting to answer a question and then you blank out, or you just realize, oh my gosh, I forgot what the question is. Hold your composure. Nobody knows what's going through your mind but you. Don't get nervous about that. Even if you have to take a breath and say, can you repeat that question one more time? That's okay, but don't freak out. Okay, just hold it together. Another thing in these forums, let's say there's 10 candidates that's answering the same question and you're number 11. And everyone's already basically said what you wanted to say by the time it gets to you. One thing you don't want to do, and I see people do this too, and it's not very smart because they're looking for separations. I agree with my opponent, and that's how they answer. I agree with everything my opponent said. Don't do that. You can always come up with something to add on to answering that question. So again, remember, they're looking at what separates you from your opponent. So if you ever find yourself saying, I agree with my opponent, don't say that, because you're trying to go above what your opponent's saying. So go ahead and answer above and beyond what they had already answered, but avoid saying that. Always stay on point. Try to stay positive, and the way we stay positive is we always have a solution, right? Don't get into the weeds. And this is especially whenever you're at cocktail parties, meet and greets, out in the grocery store. Do not get in the weeds on these issues. We love this stuff. We could live it, we could breathe it, but I'm going to tell you, not everyone does. And if you're the candidate or you're the individual that someone can't get away from, that's not going to make you a strong candidate. So make sure that you read their body language and make sure you stay on point, and don't go into the weeds with individuals unless you're sitting down and you're having coffee and they ask for further details. Avoid, especially when you're in your forums. We have school board members that are incumbents, and we make fun of them because they're always about, I did this, or I met with the superintendent, or I went here, and it's annoying. So just make sure that when you speak that you avoid using this pronoun I, and just, people are looking for someone that has solutions, but also can get things done. So we as a community, with my fellow board members together, those are some alternatives that you can use, because we're so tired of these individuals that get in there and they think they're high and mighty and it's all about them, or they don't do their job. So avoid using I, okay? But the only way that you're going to be great at these forums and you're going to be making those first impressions, you've got to practice this. This takes work. And so I hope I've stressed that. And so the next when we get to the 6 weeks, we're going to practice these 60-second and these 2-minute speeches. So let's talk about your marketing. And a lot of you have already started your marketing if you are a current candidate, but if you haven't, let me give you some tips. Creating your logo is probably one of the most important first steps that you have as a candidate. Your logo should be making a statement. Your logo should be set you apart. The graphics needs to match your office. You need to stay consistent with your branding. You think about Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and all these groups out there. Coca-Cola has had the same branding since the very beginning, right? And the reason is because we know that once you start changing your logos and you start changing your colors and your branding, it's like starting all over again. That's why it's important because we only really have what, a month, 2 months, 3 months before absentees go out. Once you come out of the gate with your stuff, you're pretty well going to have to work with it. Do not change it unless it's just hideous or offensive for some reason, but stick with your branding as soon as you come out of the gate with it. And your logo is really going to be one of the most important first steps, and you need to invest in, it might be a couple of $100 for your logo. I was able to find an app online that helped me lay out exactly what I wanted for my logo. And then I had a graphics designer just really clean it up. And that app, I believe the app was free. So when I talk about marketing on a shoestring budget, you take advantage of those apps that are online and those online resources. But your logo, you're going to use it for your signs, your website, your social media, your t-shirts, your gadgets that you're going to be giving out at parades and so forth. It goes on your business cards, your postcards, your name tags. For example, like, our logo with B.E.S.T, your logo would go here, and then your name. You're going to need things like this and your palm cards, because remember, you are marketing yourself as a candidate. So here's some ideas of how your logo, like over here to the left, this was my logo. And then we had our signs made that were the yard signs. My husband's a builder, so he's always good at putting together signs for us. But you'll see the branding was very consistent. It was, the t-shirt was the same as the signs. And I was really known for the signs in the community. People didn't know who I was. They knew who my husband was, but they didn't know who I was. So, but having a catchy logo really can make you stand way apart from your opponent, because you want your informed voters, but you want to also attract attention from new voters who do not know who you are. So having these logos are important. And then you can use that same logo for your magnets for your cars. We had a lot of magnets going around town, bumper stickers, and so forth. And here's one of the most important pieces that you need to, if you're going to invest early on, it's your palm card. Your palm card, it's basically your palm card, I don't have one in front of me, but your palm card, it's really like almost like the size of a receipt. And then it's the length of a sheet of paper. But these are excellent because you create a good palm card, then you can turn that in later into a door hanger. You can order these as door hangers, and they go into envelopes really nicely. If you end up having to use everything you have to campaign, they go into the envelopes. But these are the things that you leave at doors, you have at festivals, you have when you're asking for your petitions. It's something that you leave on the table whenever you are at a function that you're speaking at. But again, what are we talking about? We're not talking about having a thesis here. We're just talking about who are you, when's your election, contact information, what are your issues? These were my issues at the time. And then, points on who you are as a candidate and what makes you qualified. These really need to be very well thought out, because you do not want to go into a lot of detail on this. Really, if you want to go into detail, you're going to push them to your website for those details. This is not something for you to go into detail. You really want to just have your talking points. But this is probably one of the most important pieces of literature that you have early on. And this is something that you can transition, again, what I said, toward the end whenever you're doing your door-to-door. Social media. We're talking about all these things that you're going to use as marketing yourself as a candidate. Not one is the magic bullet for anything, but when you put all these together, that's when you have a winning campaign. Your stump speech, your marketing materials, your actual physical marketing materials we just talked about. The next step is your social media. So there is advantages to social media. The advantages is the fact that it's quick. You can go live. I love the Facebook Live that you can have, because, for example, this candidate right here, this was a Facebook Live, and you can pull up, and if you're at a forum and you have supporters at a forum, and you can have them video the forum, or if you have a 30-second explainer wanting to talk about an issue, you can go live on that. So social media does have its benefits, but it definitely has its disadvantages on the fact that it's very time consuming. That's why we're going to talk about this way in depth at the end when we talk about our 21-day strategy. It's very time consuming, and a lot of times people gauge how they're doing based on how they're being perceived on social media. Just keep in mind, maybe 30% of your voters might even be on Facebook. So don't use it should never, ever, ever, social media should never be your only form of online campaigning. But again, you're going to have to stay consistent. You're going to have to be active. You need to schedule your daily posts. And again, we'll talk about those in a few weeks. You're going to have to reply to some of this stuff. You need to have someone that can respond. You're going to have someone that can monitor. You're going to have to avoid arguing on social media, or don't let someone bait you into something. And I know social media candidates can get emotional on social media, and that is a disadvantage. There's a golden rule. Give yourself 24 hours to respond to anything that is negative, because you do not want to respond in anger, and you want to make sure your response is correct, right? And the most time I use this, most of the time what you'll find out is you probably won't even end up responding if you give yourself the 24-hour rule. But one disadvantage of social media is so easy. You have your phone, you're waiting in the car pickup, and you want to respond to something, you want to post something. Grammar, pay attention to your grammar. It's so important as a school board member. You could be a county commissioner and spell words, terrible, but they're expecting you as a school board member to make sure that you know how to spell. And once you put something out there that's not right, they're going to screenshot it and they're going to share it. And so just make sure that you take time and you have thought into your post, and it's just not sharing other posts. It's really well thought out post. I'm going to suggest, because we have a survey that shows that 80% of individuals in our country go online search engines to look up candidates. 80%. That's not looking up candidates on social media. It's looking up candidates online. So I'm going to highly suggest that you have a website. And I'm not a website person, but I was able to do it. $29.99 a month. I used one. I loved it. It was the easiest. I went through like 5 to find this one. The name of that provider was Campaign Partner. It was so simple, professional, had everything that we're going to show you that you need. Now, this woman right here, and I hope it woke you up, she probably spent a couple of $1 million to create this website. If you use one of these online services, like the one I use, Campaign Partners, you can have $1 million looking website, but pay $29.99 a month. And you can do it yourself, and you can have a website within a couple of days. It is so simple. The basics that you need to make sure that you have on your website, because again, people are going to go online to look you up. And if you don't have a website and your opponent does, then you're at a disadvantage. If you have a website and your opponent doesn't, you're at an extreme advantage. What you need for your website, you need your headshot. If you have your logo, that's great. You're going to have to make sure you mention what seat you're running for. Are you running for Palm Beach County School Board? Are you running so forth? Make sure you've identified that. You're going to have your contribution button. You're going to have your contact. And I'm going to tell you, your website package that you have, it has this. But your most important, if you put it together and you don't really have much time, you want to make sure that you have about you. Who are you? Have a couple of family photos on there. Your issues. What are your issues? We've talked about that. You want to make sure you have that on there. And then the one I'm telling you about, Campaign Partner, that actually has a way to have your social media feed onto your website, which is a really cool function. So we see here this lady has her social media on here, but you do not have to pay $2 million to have a dynamic website, but it's going to be extremely, extremely important to your campaign. Let's see here. So here's a friend of mine that's running. I say she's a friend because she's become a friend, and I just love her dearly, from Palm Beach County. She threw together her website. I think she said she did it. I put here less than $50 per month. I think she said she did it less. She has her family photo, her name, get involved, donate. This has basically everything that you need. Oops, hold on. And then Michael Rednick is a candidate from Gwinnett County. I think he has an awesome website. He put this together. And I do want to say less is more on these websites. It doesn't have to have, it doesn't, the more you have, the more you're going to confuse the voter. The less is best, and that's good for you as a candidate because you can maintain that and it's easy to throw together. But again, like with Michael's, you have the donate button. What's Michael's vision? He has the Facebook function there. He has his photo to identify, and then the logo to identify again. So this is, I like Michael's website right here. His homepage is awesome. One thing that, and we're wrapping this up here because I know we're going a little long. One thing I want you to know, and most candidates don't know this, you need to be if you have filed you need to be announcing this. And how are you going to announce this? You're going to announce it through a press release. You're going to know who your local reporters are. You're going to go on your local papers, letters, your editors. You're going to figure out who they are. You're going to send them a press release announcing that you filed to run for XYZ. You're going to have your headshot. That's important. You're going to have a good photo of yourself. And you're going to have a 150 to 200 word bio about you. It's important that once you've filed, that you have a headshot that can be used everywhere. When I filed, I had a horrible picture. It was awful. It almost looked like a mugshot. My kids, that's what my kids said. It looked like a mugshot. And that was the one that they pulled up to use whenever I had filed, and I was so embarrassed. But now my recommendation to you is have a headshot, your bio, send that to them. Even if they don't write about you as a candidate, they'll put your picture they'll put it in their file, and then anytime they're going to write about you, they'll pull from their file versus having to go on the internet to find a picture of you, or social media to find a picture of you. So there's advantage of sending out your press release, but it's free. It's free advertisement for you. You're marketing yourself as a candidate. And so it's important that you announce to the world that you have filed. It's important that they have that professional picture, who you are. One thing I want to make sure that you don't do, and this is a dear friend of mine too, and hope she doesn't get mad if she sees this. So when she ran the very first time, she used a lot of different pictures, and she has beautiful curly hair, but sometimes she would wear it up. You'll see that to the left. Sometimes she would wear it down. Sometimes she would wear it down and it was straightened. And it was really confusing because people were having a hard time identifying who she was at these forums. They didn't know her anyways. But another disadvantage, she was using this picture, the background. Pay attention when you have your headshots. Make sure that you have a professional background and make sure that it's high resolution and it's not blurry. She ended up going with the one that the media picked up and they used quite a bit, was the one that I have circled there. But it's important that what we're talking about is staying consistent with your messaging, with your issues, with your website, with your logo. But you also, another part of your marketing yourself as a candidate is staying consistent with your headshot. You want to make sure that the media is using the same one. You want to make sure that you're using the same one on your social media feed, on your website, because again, the more they see you, and you're going to have to make 7 touches with your voters, the more that they see you, the more chances is that you are going to be that candidate that they're going to select and identify with, just because they feel that they know you. Here's an example of the layout of what a press release looks like. It's very formal. It never changes. You have your contact information. You have, and lay it out exactly like this. This for immediate release, your date. You're going to have your title, what the press release says. Where is it coming from? Vero Beach, Florida, Washington, D.C., wherever your press release is coming from, you need to have that starting it off. You have to have a little statement about, so-and-so is running for school board, and write it in third person, okay? This isn't in first person. Where you're in first person is when you have your quote. You want to make sure you have a quote on your press release about you, why are you're going to say why you're running in there. What are those 3 issues you're running on? Bullet points. Try to keep it 1 page. And then if you have a dynamic endorsement already from someone that's well known in the community, go ahead and tag in their endorsement as in quotes and into your press release. But again, you need to keep your press release to 1 page. This was an example of someone that had a press release and they released it in the community I live in. Basically, everything I just told you is how they laid it out. The city, and you'll see there's a quote, and then there's another quote, and just a little bit more about the candidate. So I know you have a lot of homework to work on, and we can only do so much. We can give you all the tidbits and nuggets, and it's going to be up to you to hit this out of the ballpark. But I hope that you do your homework, you know your issues, that you've identified are your issues, you've researched them, you know them backwards and forwards, inside out, in your sleep. Also, you're going to be you need to practice, and this is where it's hard. It's cutting it down into, okay, now you know the issues, but now how do I talk about it, and just talking points when it's just short descriptions. That takes practice. Practice your 1, 2, and 3 minute stump speeches, because we're going to practice those. Get your headshot and your bio ready, and get your press release out. That is your homework for today. So Zach, I am ready for any questions that we may have.
Yep. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, raise your hand, or use the Q&A. I see we have a question from Sandra. Hello. How are you, Sandra?
Hi there. I'm doing great. I'm in Arizona. And in regards to the press release, I don't know anything about doing that. So to find an expert that might be able to help me. I screenshotted the format and all of that, but I don't know who the best people to contact to get that press release out.
Sandra, you don't need to, you are an expert. You won't need that. I'm going to tell you, if you do exactly in the layout, and Zach, can you put in, because in our parent empowerment toolkit, and we're putting together a candidate toolkit with things like this, but in our parent empowerment toolkit, because it's one of the things that we talk to parent groups about, and Zach's this is online, but we have about 10 pages where we talk about the press release and exactly how to do it. So Sandra, you can go there. And what I suggest you to do, because we're here to help you, we're here to coach you through this. So if you get it laid out, and you have your draft, I want you to email that over to Zach and I, and we'll give you some tips on it, and we'll take a look at it. But I'm going to tell you, you can do this. You don't have to hire anyone. But I know if you have someone that has worked in media or anything like that, it's always great to have those connections on your campaign. But if not, everyone can do this. So, and I don't know, I can't see on my screen, but our toolkits are on parentsknowbest.com under resources. And this one is the Parent Empowerment Toolkit, but I believe it's on page 12 when we start talking about our press releases. And so did that answer your question, Sandra? I'm going to assume yes. If not, you can email us. Again, my email is lzorc@freedomworks.org. and ZORC. I'm here to help you all because this is so important to me to make sure that you all win your campaign. Send it over and we'll take a look. One thing I do want to mention, Zach and this is off script. We didn't talk about this offline. Put in there the form that we have for individuals that don't know a lot about FreedomWorks and B.E.S.T. Twice a year, we have a fly-in where we fly in candidates and parent leaders, and we just work with you on the issues. We work with you on practicing your speeches and things in person. And we actually pay for you to come into DC for 2 days. And we have a training coming up in person on the 20th through the 22nd. I have a couple of seats left. Zach, if you could put the form and the link, if that's something that you're interested in for that additional training, especially for our candidates that are your elections coming up later in the summer, I'd love to get you to come out to DC. We'd love to work with you. We have parent activists. It's just, I'm going to tell you, if you don't leave this fly-in inspired, then I don't know what will. But fill out this application so we can get to know you a little more, and we'll let you know. Now, here's the catch. It is right around the corner. It's May 20th through the 22nd. So I'm getting ready to head up to DC this week to start working on the final details. But again, we're buying your plane tickets. We are paying for your hotel. Really, the only expense that you would have is your travel from the airport to the hotel. And then our hotel is probably about 2 blocks away from where we have our trainings at our office. And it's walking distance, and it's really, really a great opportunity. That's one thing I love about this organization I work for. They invest in our activists. And this is really something new that we have at FreedomWorks is with the B.E.S.T program is working on our candidate training. So anyways, any other questions, Zach?
I don't know. Let's what's the thing? You go once, twice. If you're writing out a question and don't think I will see it before I say 3. Oh, we got one.
Will there be a later date? My kids are still in school and yes. Well,
not before
for
November 8th.
No, not before November. We have one after November. We'll have one in mid-November. We have to get through our elections. But I do think there's an event coming up in Arizona on May 14th that we're sponsoring, and I believe that's right there in Phoenix. If you are interested in that, we can get you that information, Sandra. See if it's still open for you to sign up for that. Our deputy director that works with me, Amy Carney, she is a mom out in Scottsdale. She's also running for school board in Scottsdale. And I know that they're trying to work on some trainings out there. So I definitely would love to get you all connected if you don't know her.
I thought so. Sandra knows Amy.
Oh, shoot. Amy knows everyone. So that is cool. Well, let's try to get you connected with her. I wish we could get you out. I know it's a short notice. I hope that you all have found some valuable nuggets in this training today. And I'm going to tell you, it's not one thing that you do, it's not 2, but when you take all of these tidbits that we gave you today and you put them together, I promise you, you will have a winning campaign if you put these together and you work the plan. What was the thing that having having a goal without a plan is just a wish. So what we want to make sure is that you have the goal, you have the plan, because we're not wishing for you to win. We want you to win. But next week we have, who's coming up next week in our trainings?
Fundraising and budgeting. So Aaron, pay special attention if you're still on with us. You were asking about budgets earlier. Next week is the week to get through that. And I believe we're working with the Leadership Institute, right, Laura?
Yes. What we've done this year that we didn't do last year is now we have all these groups around the nation that are offering some school board candidate training. I've been able to take some time and research, and I've learned from some of these trainings myself. And like Noah Webster Foundation, Educational Foundation, we had Karen Hiltz who gave us a training last week. I've taken all the best trainings and I put it into a 6-week training that I think is going to make the biggest impact, like the biggest punch in a short amount of time for you. And so we have the leadership, and then we have some really good trainings left that the team still has to give you. Zach is going to give the next one. One thing about Zach that a lot of you might not know is Zach actually worked on the Youngkin campaign, and he was one of the individuals out door to door, and he has some dynamic strategies that he's going to bring you all in a couple of weeks, and a lot of valuable tools for you to take with you. But anyways, I got to jump on another call. It's been a great training, and I look forward to seeing you all in a couple of weeks when we practice those stump speeches.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Thanks, everyone.